Supercoaches, I'm here to have my second cry of the weekend. Tommy Turbo. I was having an absolute flyer of a week. It was like safety May or Captain Turbo. I saw the sun was out. I was like, let's do it. Let's ride the wave. And I was worried about injury. I saw that bloody knee brace on. I didn't know what that was about. But still went with it. And we're crying because it could have been an absolute belter of a week. I was thinking sort of 1,300 plus and making lots of ranks. And unfortunately, still good. I basically halved my rank from 10,500 there to 5,397 and moving in the right direction. Kept Cleary, kept Ponga looking ideal there and picked up 1182. So a pretty solid situation, making tremendous team value, by the way, as well. 13.65 million bucks is where we're sitting right now. And just have a quick look at overall rankings, where everyone's at. The top guys are sitting at team values anywhere between sort of 13.2 to 13.6, and I might have to scroll a while to get to a 13.7. So there's a 12.7. Wow, there's some good scores there for that team value. Yeah, I've got one of the better team values. I can't see anyone really better than me by much in this top 50 there. So there you go. There's a 13.7. It took all the way to 46 overall for Brenton, and shout out to you and your team name there. Kick our back and relax. Love that. So yeah, shout out to everyone in this top section. Some big rank moves in the top 20 there, with two guys, Rod in 10th moving up 246 spots and Henry in 13th up 301. But they're sitting there at 5,249 points. And it's actually fairly congested up there early on, which is good. So 5,249 with me at 4,872. So it's only 400 points or so behind, which isn't too crazy at this stage of the season. And I think having that kind of team value means we can look to push to get some guns in, as many guns as possible. And that's where I'm looking over the next bunch of weeks. I've used 2 lots of boosts so far, just the 1 trade in the first week, so 7 trades down. Early on for me, I don't think it will be a boosting week. There's a couple of good cheapies that are on to their second game. So Dylan Egan, we've got Thomas Kant. He definitely can. Those guys there have only played the 1 game, so could easily be waited on until next week. And my main issue this week personally is Tommy Turbo with his injury, and it sounds like it's MCL, and we'll wait and find out about that one. I've moved a couple of things around. Marju's come back into the team, but I played Tamale this week. Had Sandon Smith straight out holding on to Cleary, so I've moved Cleary back in. I wish I just captained Haas straight up, or Terrell with his 92. But a lot of my guys making money, like to see Starling at 487, Mamazelis at 448 is awesome. The front row forward is absolutely crushing. Haas, Nafahu White, Terrell May, all going up massive price in price. Horsburgh, Tino, Matty Nicholson doing some good work. Like I've bought him. He's got the 72 in gains now. We do need that score to improve a little bit. I'm not sure if I'll play him this week. That's how strong the team's looking with a few guys back. But Preston with his 122 was massive from my side, and pushed me into a good position. And having some of these other guys like Tino from round 1 with his 82 average, guys like Campbell and Brimson doing a good job this week. Having Shibasaki as a starter, having Tamale in the squad. Brought in Gutho. What about the old loss of his try assist and then added back? But very much hoping he can score pretty well, and hopefully a dry track at Combank, where he knows all too well that he can score pretty well, and keep that break even that's got the 140 odd in it with that 40. Hopefully can get a good score and him not have to be a sell, because the next couple of weeks are pretty nice for him. He's got the Titans following that at home. So if he can get a couple of good scores, then we push him up into the 800s or so, and maybe he's a sell to like a Latrell Mitchell or something like that, now that things are getting a little bit easier for the Souths. And if he can get on a roll, he'll be a really fun trade in for sure in that 800k mark, along with guys like Tedesco, who are up there as well. You can also use the flex to muck around with, and I might be doing that this week with Tommy. Rather than bringing in a fullback, I might look at a couple of other positions. I've got a couple of gun players and I've got my eye on, which we'll speak about in the buy, hold, sell, and also my trades for the week. But guys that are interesting in the squad right now, Jesse Arthurs has made a fair bit of cash now. He's actually ticked over 500k and has a break even of 56 with the 2 lower scores. So he's someone that I think has made pretty well the majority of his cash. And there's every chance that he comes out and gets another 30 odd this week. He could also come out and score a double and get 90 again. But going off his past scores and where we've seen him at over all of his years, he's a mid-30s scorer, priced over 500k now, and it could be a good opportunity to get him down to someone like Thomas Jenkins, who's in a good spot right now to make good cash. The only other guy I'd see in my centre wing that's a potential trade would be Rob Toya this week with the 22 break even, but he's up against the South and he could score well, and we only need someone like Toya that's just a tick over 300k there to get one good score, and then his price rises kick off again. Yes, he's had a couple of low ones, but that 45 will now stick in his rolling average, and we'll eventually get rid of that 20 odd from the week before. And if he gets a 70 or 80 or something like that, then he can get his way up to 400k plus very, very quickly. So I might be looking at Arthurs to Jenkins just to free up some cash, and I've got a good enough team this week to get a strong 17, and if we get another gun from Turbo in that flex position, then we'll be sitting pretty good in that spot. And guys that potentially could be mid-scoring, like Nicholson, who could score tries, but he is up against the Sharks this week. He could potentially make way out of this side. And guys like Brimson probably stick in for another week coming up against the Dolphins. So it's an interesting situation where we find ourselves. I'm glad that it's moved into a pretty good spot. And we'll just have a quick look at last year and our history as well from the 2024 season coming into the end of round 4. So overall, after round 4 last year, I was sitting at 54,000, which is pretty rough. And I did make the same situation with 7 trades across the first 3 games. And my team value was at 12.2. Let's see if that's correct, actually, or if it's the following week. 12.2. Yeah, 13.6. Wow. So I'm up 1.4 million bucks. Yes, I had a really poor start, but this year it's been a much better one. Look at the round scoring for the first 3 weeks last year: 914, 893, 999, and then didn't hit under 1,000 until the first major buy with that 977. So, and it took me all the way till round 7 to get my cash really moving, and that's when I started improving my overall position. But to be in that 5,300 mark, it took me all the way until round 12 last year to get to that mark. And then my best ranking of the year did sit around that 2,300 mark. Yeah, 2,300 in round 19. And then very much stuck steady from there all the way to the end of the season. So the goal is to not make some silly trades from guys, especially in the center wings, that aren't like top tier pure guns. When you're looking at the Vals, the Farnworth, Lomax, these types of guys that are very consistent, they're the guys that you want to be bringing in rather than the flyers at 600 or so thousand, like I did with the Sarko and Isaac Tungo and these types of guys. So making those decisions and improving those decisions for me is going to be the ticket to have a much better year. And as we can see with my history last year, is that you can move overall ranks very, very quickly. I halved my rank 3 weeks in a row from 54,028 to 15 to 8,500, and then sat at 5,600 around that mark for about a month there. And I used boosts fairly early. I used my 5 boosts by the end of round 10, and I think we'll probably be in a similar situation. And if we can use that just the 2 trades this week, which is probably how I'm looking for round 5, if things go okay with injuries, round 6 could be a similar one, and we'll go from there. So just thought it'd be cool for you guys to go check as well your history from last year, and after round 4 to be 50,000 spots better is awesome. And I can't ask for too much more apart from Tommy not getting injured. That would have been great, and I probably would have been sitting near the 1,000 mark if he scored an 80, or if I changed the captaincy to Terrell. I think that pushes me up another 70, another almost 70 points, which would have been helpful as well to get me into that top 2,000 or 3,000. But that's just something I think is really cool to have a look at for your sides. JBFA private group and our overall leaderboard, Mr. Scoop ended up getting basically the same score as me, 1182. Yeah, exactly the same in the end. And I was projected to beat him by about 150. I was like at 1320 or so before Turbo, and I don't think he owns Tommy, so it was a great little Sunday for him. Into 160th, so it's the highest I've seen him in Supercoach, and he's crushing our private group right now, almost 91 points ahead of Maddie in second at 1,008, and then Ashton in third, 1,090. Lost a few spots along with Matt There's always a few Matthews up top. We've got three Matts or Matthews in the top 7 rankings. So shout out to all you guys. Simon in 5th, Jared in 6th after a bit of a tough one. He was crushing it just inside the top 400 before last week. So hopefully a bounce back for Jared. And then we've got Willem, we've got Ollie, David in 10th, and then Will in 11th. Alan's 12th. Alan is 12th. Where am I? In 20th. So we're doing all right, guys. We're all on the way up, hopefully, which is good. And the Podmasters, I'm into 16th out of 102. So that's a very improved week. And I'm glad that that's where we've moved to, and rightly so, because, we deserve a bit of luck sometimes, even though we didn't have the turbo one. But yeah, if the turbo thing paid off, we'd be probably sitting in that, 10th or so mark. So there's a bit of a gap between myself at 16th and the top 1,000 in Julian in number 7. So shout out to all you guys for doing a great job. C-Max with Chris into 139th. We've got Scoop in there at 160. Guy seems to be up there fairly regularly. In 180th, Luke in 221, Maxi in 323, and Kyle in 370th. So those guys are absolutely flying right now. As we're saying, with total points 4872 where I'm at. And that extra 130 points would put us in the top 850. And that extra 80 points, what would it be? No, 70 points, what I say, would put us, in the top 3,000 pretty comfortably. 2,500, something like that. So, there's a few things that can continue to happen over the next few weeks, and I'm really excited to see how it all plays out. In terms of our JBFA private head-to-heads, I managed to beat Adam in that one. Managed to beat the Podmasters head-to-head. Managed to beat Matt, SC halfback. What else we got? Podmasters Seed 1 League, beat Aiden. That was good. The All-Stars League. Got a good win there and into 4th. 3 wins and a loss. Beers and break-evens were moving up. Head-to-head 2 and 3. Managed to lose to David. He's had a cracker week, actually. He's in Dream Team. I'll show you his squad. He crushed me this week. And then beat Harry, unfortunately, under 1,000 for him. So, that's all of the leagues. And then just to finish things off, guys, just my Dream Team squad moved from 22nd into 16th this week. So a crusher of a week there. Moved up 6 spots. And the top 2 ranks at the moment are flying. They're like 4,200. And I'm just under 4,000 at 3,998. So incredible work from those guys up top. But just a quick one on our leagues. I've just got the one league of 6 there from our private crew. Not many people play this one here, but Dave with 1,098, a crusher of a week. He moved from about 123 into 24th, only 8 spots behind me, and almost 30 points. So great work from him. Dave at 188, Jared at 552, and Heath and Stuart in there, rounding out the top 1,000. So that's the results for Supercoach and for Dream Team this week. Sitting pretty at the moment, happy with the improvement, and it could go even better, but that's for this week, right? We had a couple of guys out. We have had a lot of injuries with Burton, with Turbo being out, with Cleary being out. A bunch of different things there, and managed to pull out a good score this week, which I was hoping for to be more of like a slight improvement, and it came out really good. So happy as for Shibasaki and Preston being the top 2 scorers of the week. Having them in my side was great, and it was very much the same in Dream Team as well, having Burton in that squad with Shibasaki and the like. So that was great. We'll leave it at that for that one, guys. Thanks so much for jumping in, and we'll catch you in our NRL Fantasy analysis of round 4 later on today when they sort out rankings. See you guys.